out of here and onto the paper. So now I am getting rid of it. I am releasing it. And we're living in days where the hearts of men are failing them for fear of what is coming upon the earth. And we are dealing with things we've never dealt with before. So I really encourage anyone, don't be ashamed to go get help and process these things. Good morning, everyone. I'm Destiny Dawn, and this is the Destiny Dawn Show. Today, we're talking about trauma therapy, and this is something I've been interested in. And as I research it, there is an overwhelming amount of information out there, which is a good thing. There's a lot of different ways to help yourself overcome the trauma that you've been through. A lot of different methods out there for healing. There's even family, for families, not just for individuals. A lot of times it affects the whole family. So that's really good. I'm excited to know that. The Human Trafficking Agency, Hands of Justice, they do family trauma therapy. And so sometimes you can't get healing for just one person. You need the help of all the individuals around you that it has affected in order to get total healing. And so I like that. One of the I'm just going to touch on a few of them here because there's a lot, but one of them is exposure, and that is just exposing yourself to the trauma over and over until you're no longer afraid of it. And that is something that, we know that works with things like you build a tolerance to something, or something gets old after a while. At first it's new and exciting. And then after a while, when you're exposed to it enough, it begins to get, old, and it's not exciting anymore. And that's what you need whenever something that is very terrifying or fearful. If you're exposed to it enough, it'll get old eventually, and it won't bother you anymore. So that is one thing. And then just help, there's other methods about helping you process your thoughts about the event and about why you believe the event occurred. That's a huge part of it, because a lot of times victims will blame themselves. And even though you may have made a choice that might have not been the best choice, whatever happened to you or was going to happen to you was not your fault. You didn't cause that person to do what they did. They chose to do that. You may have helped them out by making a choice and being lured into that territory, but they chose to deceive you, and that was wrong. They chose to abuse you, and that was wrong. So never think that it's your fault. You may not have made the best choice, but we all make mistakes, and we're all learning from it. So the cognitive processing therapy is what they call it. And it helps you to be able to process why these things why you think these things happened to you, and what are your beliefs about the event and the experience since it happened. And just processing those thoughts are very important, and they help you do that. And one good thing about this is that you don't even have to have remembered it, which is very important, because a lot of times people, like with PTSD and war veterans, they will completely push those memories away because they are negative memories and negative emotions, very painful memories. And so they will push those memories out of their mind, and they won't remember it on purpose. And so the cognitive processing therapy will help you even if you don't remember the event, or you just simply don't want to talk about it. So that is very good to know, is that some of these methods can help you even if you aren't talking about it. So another one, and the thing that I think would help anyone, is simply writing it all down. Just writing it down in a journal. Now you can just think about the event, bring it back to your mind, because the first thing we want to do is just put it out of our mind. We don't want to think about it. But forcing yourself to think about it and process it, and sometimes it's just easier just to put it on paper. As a writer, that's always helped me by journaling and just putting it on paper. And for some reason, I think what it is that it feels like when you write it down instead of just thinking about it, when you physically put your pen to paper, your hand to paper, there's even something about that that's not the same as typing it, but literally putting your hand to the paper, that feels like you're getting it out of you, out of the inside of you, out of here and onto the paper. So now I am getting rid of it. I am releasing it. It's not here anymore. It's not in me. It is now outside of me. It is on that paper and I got it out. It's very important. It's very powerful. And I don't understand it. Maybe there's a therapist out there that can help me understand it. I don't understand it, but I know it works. And it's why I wrote this book right here. I wrote this book because it has been very powerfully healing for me to get all these thoughts and all these memories and emotions out of me and onto the paper, and to organize it from point A to point B in a process where I could think, okay, and put all these puzzle pieces together of this event happened and that event happened and this is where I was and this is what I was thinking, and processing. It is a powerful processor. Just put pen to paper, write it down, even if no one else ever reads it. Every time I do something like this, I do it first for myself and my children. If no one else ever read that book, that was first for myself and second for my children. So, and it could be for your great, great, great grandchildren one day. It'll always be in existence. And then a lot of times, the other thing is that people do put these memories out of their mind. They just completely put it out of their mind because it's just part of the coping mechanism and trying to cope with everyday life. But in order to heal, it's kind of like whenever a bone is broken and then it doesn't heal correctly and it heals broken, it's going to stay broken. So it is painful to go back and break that bone and let it, and then set it correctly and let it heal. And that's kind of what going back to those memories are like. It's kind of like breaking that bone, and it's painful to go back into those memories and relive it. And it was painful writing this book because I had to relive it every time I was writing it, every time I rewrote it, every time I edited it and reread it over and over and over. I told my publisher, I don't know how many more times I can read that. I can't, at one point I was like, I cannot read this again. This is the last time, because it's painful to relive it. And I didn't want it, at some point you don't want it to begin to not, you don't want it to be where you don't feel anything. You don't want to not feel things. So there's that balance. You don't want to not feel anything. You don't want it to get to the point where it's just bland and, so, but, trauma is any event that causes emotional or psychological harm. And so I'm sure many of you out there have experienced some type of trauma. And so I hope that these things will be helpful to you. But journaling is a huge thing. I truly believe in that. I think you probably could put a therapist out of business just if you would journal. But I think the therapists are wonderful, beyond even just a counselor that can help you talk through things. The therapists are people that really understand the brain and how it works and the psychology, the psyche, uh, just behind how the brain works and how these things that have happened to people, how our brain works to overcome and to deal with it. And I think it's very important. Trauma therapy helps you process the emotions surrounding the event. And it's very important, even if it's painful, to go back and do this. And a lot of times there's something called avoidance. People avoid, the victims will avoid people and places that remind them of the events. And it's just a coping mechanism. But in order to heal, we do have to face those things. And for me, there was a time where I even had to face something that I could potentially be happening. It hadn't happened yet. It was in the future. And we're not supposed to be fearful or afraid of something that we don't even know is going to happen. But when I saw the writing on the wall and I knew that this was a possibility, that this very deep pain could happen to me, I had to go there in my mind, in my psyche, and I had to play this out. How am I going to respond? How am I going to react if this does happen? Am I going to be able to keep my faith? Am I going to be able to keep my relationship with God? How am I going to respond if this happens? Because it's 99% sure going to happen. And so sometimes we have to go there and feel that pain. And it helped me write the ending for the book, just to be able to feel the pain. We have to be able to work through that. And I think that's helped me in the end. It's helped me a lot. And then, there are things like betrayal for victims. I think that victims can feel betrayed, not just by the perpetrator. They were deceived, and deception is like a type of betrayal. But it's also that you feel like you betrayed your own self because you believed them. So you feel like you weren't true to yourself, and you feel like you can never trust anyone again. And I remember the first time, because we were betrayed, and I remember the first time that I felt like, oh, I can never trust anyone again. I mean, and I felt like I just needed to close myself off from other people, new relationships, new, people. And the very next thought that I had was, you're going to be a very lonely person if you do that. And that's the truth. We can't go around just never having relationships. Relationships do involve risk. Trust involves risk. Even reconnecting and renewing an old broken relationship definitely involves risk. But there's also a reward. So the same way as financial, in finance, we know about risk and reward relationship. There's risk, there's also reward. And God took a risk when he created us that we would choose not to love him, because now he was giving us a choice. We're not just robots. He's given us a choice. We can choose to love him. We can choose not to. And he took a huge risk because he gave us choice, the freedom of choice. It's the most beautiful gift he gave us. That's one of the titles of one of the chapters in the book, is the gift. And it's when I gave my daughter a choice. And I didn't force her, because true love is never forced. And so whenever when you choose to trust again, when you choose to love again, yes, you're taking a risk, but you can't experience true love and real relationships if you don't take that risk. So there is a balance there. At least you can be more aware of and have up a higher guard and learn from the mistakes and relearn your boundaries. I think a lot of us don't know our boundaries, and we need healthy boundaries. So with trauma therapy, there's a lot of it out there that can help you, a lot of different methods. And I hope that if you have been in a situation where you have been a victim or you've been abused, that you will seek help. Hands of Justice Human Trafficking Agency is one of them that I donate to. And I hope that you can reach out to them or someone in your area. The good thing is you don't even have to live in the area. You can just go online now and you can do Zoom calls. You can do therapy online with people, and you don't even have to be there. And that's amazing. And you can do therapy with other people online who don't even live where you are. If you have other people in your family that are somewhere else, you don't have to physically be in the same place. I think that's wonderful. And you don't even have to do it together. You can do it separately. I think that's wonderful. So I encourage you today to go out and get some therapy, get some help, process these things. We're living in days where the hearts of men are failing them for fear of what is coming upon the earth, and we are dealing with things we've never dealt with before. So I really encourage anyone, don't be ashamed to go get help. and process these things that you have been through. And I pray that this helps you, and I will see you in the next video.